Okay, welcome. Some of you know me, Dr. Asmodisi, and I'm excited to showcase what the ArcGIS platform can bring to your class today. I'm going to go over how to add data to a map and how to work with the map, and then how to display it effectively for your class. It's going to take a little bit of work through the ArcGIS platform, and I hopefully will go slowly, but of course, if you miss something, simply rewind and check back in. And if you need to email me and ask me any questions, you should always feel free to do so. Excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. Yes, I'm doing. Okay. Let me get on over here. Hi. So, it'll be a little smaller. Okay, so I'm gonna sign in. Oops. And here you'll see the GIS like main platform. I think yours might look a little bit different than mine. But certainly you should see the top ribbon should be the same, this home to organization. And what we do in GIS is we create maps, of course, that are informed by data. And so we work on maps in Map, and then we display them in something called a story map, which technically is kind of like an app. And sort of we'll get to it, but first let's go ahead and make our map, okay? Now, I'm trying to make a video that's sort of inspired by environmental justice, and a big component of environmental justice in the United States are so-called Superfund sites. Let's add some Superfund sites. Now here, let me start it by saying that GIS is a bit like Photoshop, in which you add layers of information on top of your base map. We can go ahead and change this base map. It's okay, but maybe we want something a little bit more, well, we can kind of choose maybe more realistic. Let's go ahead with the imagery map. Here's our world. Beautiful, huh? Okay. So what I want to do is first add, so we have our base map and I want to add layers. I'm going to go to layer and I'm going to say add layer. The default is it goes to my content up here. And I want to change that because my content is all the data that I upload. I expect you have no data uploaded, right? So your my content should be empty. But the cool thing about GIS is so much of this data is accessible right on the platform. And in my days when I started first working with GIS, it was quite a pain to get data. But now here it is all loaded in this platform. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to say everything in ArcGIS Online. So this is some things that organizations can input data as well as individuals and put it in ArcGIS Online for others to use. I'm going to first type in Superfund. And you can see here, there's a couple of maps that show Superfund and priority sites, okay? This one's from the Shared Enterprise Geodata and Services, which provides data for EPA users. So that's the Environmental Protection Agency. Let's go ahead and add this to the map, okay? And you can see here, all these Superfund sites. You might not know what a Superfund is. Let's look at it. We click here. We get some information about the layer. Okay. Not that much information on this one. Let's see. Sorry. That's just Indiana. Okay, well, that's will come into play later. But what you can do is click on these polygons, right? That's what these are. And they will show some information about the Superfund sites. Superfund sites are designated by the EPA as sites that have sort of toxins or pollutions that are harmful to the general public and so are being cleaned up. And so most every one of these, so let's see, let's go to New Jersey where there are quite a few. Many of them have website links that you can go to, like over here. And if you copy this one, and do Command C, Command B right there, you'll find, for instance, in this place, Madison Industries rather, EPA is proposing to remove soil contaminated with zinc, lead, and cadmium. And if you looked through, you can find a lot more information about the Superfund sites here. But right now, this is what we have, Superfund site, okay? Now's a good time, now that I've added at least one layer, to go ahead and do save as. I'm going to save it as environmental justice map 1, okay? That's because I might make more in the future. Okay, so I saved my map. Here it is. Okay, now many people have proposed that there are certain vulnerabilities to environmental justice issues, okay, often related to sort of racial ethnicity of neighborhoods as well as income of neighborhoods, i.e. Mostly poor folks and people of diverse backgrounds may be more susceptible to having a polluting industry in their neighborhood. Okay, and so we can use maps as a way to sort of like better understand this and sort of give you the equipment to sort of like understand these questions. And I'm going to go for a scale-based work here. But just to note, of course, again, we have data that we've added to the base map. I'm going to add another one. And this one I'm going to add from ArcGIS Online, USA counties. Okay, and you'll see this is Esri. It provides USA Census counties. I'm going to add that. I'm going to do what I wanted to do before and show that if you click on here, you will find, oh, also not that much information. But if you go, okay, right, oh, I'm sorry, look right there. Maybe if I waited for the other one, I would have seen it, but this layer presents all the counties from the 2020 census, okay? And if we wanted to see the data table, it would be right here. Each of these counties is represented on this map, okay? And so the first thing, so I want to have counties, and I also want to look at something at a smaller scale. So for USA, these are called census tracts, okay? There are even smaller groups, but these are sort of meant to represent neighborhoods. And you see there are a lot more that are nested within the counties, right? Don't know the straight line that I just zoomed into, but it's very interesting. Okay, anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my census tract layers. And I want to first just look at the statewide geography, okay? Let's hone in on New Jersey. You might notice that I was able to turn this off and on by highlighting and clicking the eyes. I also am going to move this Superfund site thing up a little bit. And now that I have a couple of layers here, I want to actually symbolize this a little bit more. So I'm going to click on here, and you'll see that it immediately shows the symbology. If I go here and click on styles, I'll be able to say I want to keep this stylizing where I have each location as a single symbol. But instead of this fill color being nothing, I want to have it be sort of a similar orange, maybe a little bit brighter is fine by me too. Maybe a little bit brighter. That's fine, okay. And if I press done, now I've symbolized this layer, okay. So all of these polygons again represent Superfund sites. You can see, of course, the Hudson River being a long one, right? If we click on it, we see that, whoops, oh, this is a good time to show this. If I click on here, it might say Superfund site, if I click this arrow, it'll refer back to the county. You can see that it's sort of highlighting the county boundary versus when I was looking at the Superfund site. Okay. So what I want to do now is I'm not going to look at counties that are outside of the great state of New Jersey. So I'm going to highlight the census counties. And before I color it, I'm going to use the filter. I'm going to add the expression where the state name is equal to New Jersey. And there. Now, don't press add expression, because what it'll then do is say, show me every county here where the state name is county and the county name is Washington County. And so for the sake of it, I happen to know that this is a county within New Jersey. So this is the only one where the state name is New Jersey and the county name is Somerset County. But if I remove that delete expression, I get all the counties within New Jersey and I can save it right there. Okay. I can also symbolize this. Just check something about. Okay, I could also do this for the Superfund sites. So if I click on the Superfund sites and then I say go back to filter and I change it to state is New Jersey. Here they use NJ and press save. Now I'll only see the Superfund sites in the state of New Jersey. Okay, so now I have my counties and my Superfund site. Not a bad time to go and press save. Okay. So what I want to do is get a little bit more data about this geography. Okay. So what I'm going to do is some analysis tools. You can see this icon for analysis tools, kind of funky, but there are several different tools that I can use to better understand these geographies. What I'm going to do is enrich the data. This is, I think, a very helpful tool, because what it will do is it will look at each of these counties and enrich it with information. And what that information is pretty cool. So again, the input features are going to be these counties. Let's get to the enrichment data browser. Wow, tons of information. Okay, here are the 20 different categories in which I can find some interesting information about businesses, how many businesses or employees there are. I can find some information about poverty. So for instance, let's go ahead with the households below the poverty line. Okay, and I've now selected one variable. And I'm going to press select. And the results, I'm going to write poverty, New Jersey. Okay, and I'm going to do underscore county level. Okay, and here I'm going to save it to Alcimede St. Loomis. So now that will show up actually on my content page. And obviously for y'all, you'll save it in whatever folder and the login that you were given. So if I run this, it'll start to run over here. Okay, it shouldn't take long because there's only a few of these counties. But what it's doing is going into US Census data, which is all spatially linked to these areas, and tying it to the county's data set. Okay, so you'll see that in a little bit. I'll check in over here. I also want to do this with the, I'm going to turn this off for now, with the census block data. Okay, you can see there are so many of these, right? But again, I can filter some of these out. Oh, so we'll check this in a second. I'm going to turn this off, okay? But what I'm going to do is, again, click on the census tract boundaries. I'm going to filter it. I'm going to add the expression where the state abbreviation is none other than NJ, and press save. And so now I have, oops, it didn't work. Oh, no, it did work. Okay. Now I have New Jersey at the state scale. Okay. And I'm going to do that same analysis, actually. I'm going to do, go over here to tools. All right. And I'm going to go to enrich data. And here my input features are actually going to be the census. Oops, nope, no. The census tract boundaries, and I'm going to enrich it with poverty data for the number of households. Make sure the definition, if you scroll over here, the number of households below the poverty line, okay? So I'm going to select that and I'm going to run that. Oh, job submission failed. Oh, I have to put in a name. So I'm going to put in NJ poverty _ census tract, which again is sort of at like the more neighborhood level. Okay. So again, now this is running, but we finished one that we saw, and that's these counties. Okay. So now if I go to these counties and I click over here, the 3 dots and go to show table, I can scroll all the way to the right, and here I have the number of households believed to be below the poverty line. Okay, it's really helpful information for a lot of reasons, right? So let's exit out of here. What I want to do is now, with this highlighted, I really don't need this counties anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to save. Okay. And I'm going to, again, click on this enriched county level data. Oops. And press styles. Okay. And here I'm going to actually add a field. Okay. And that field is going to be households below the poverty level. I'm going to add that. Okay. And here I can actually visualize this difference. Okay. So in these darker blue, it looks like there's only about 3,000, few thousand. Looks like the census tract won't finish. Let's turn that off. But over here, again, the county level, over here you see sort of the northeast areas of New Jersey with much higher poverty levels, okay? I can go to style options and I can change, that's a pretty rough color frequency. I might opt for something like this, or maybe even something like this. I like when there's 2 different colors at the top and bottom, because then you can kind of emphasize the difference. Let's go with this, okay, in which these paler ones have fewer households in poverty, whereas these darker colors, especially blue, have many more households in poverty. I'm going to press done, and there's other things I can change here, right? I can change the outline width and make it a little bit more clear if I wanted to. Let's save it at that, but you can kind of change those based on your own sort of preferences. If I press done, I now have this state. If I go to the legend on the left side, beautiful. I've got a scale associated with it. Again, I'm sorry, if I go to the layers and I drag these up, now I can put the Superfund sites right on top of them. Okay. And this might be actually infrequently do this, but if I click on Superfund sites and I go to effects, I can actually put like maybe a little bit of a drop shadow or a blur. I'm going to put a drop shadow, but it's just going to be a little bit less intense. One. Okay, and now I've sort of changed this a little bit. I'm going to put a gray. Okay, but there's a ton of different ways you could do it that you might think could do a better job of sort of like having some of these features. I guess I'm even wondering, maybe I make it a little bit darker, a little bit Y offset bigger. Okay, cool. Exit out of here. So now I have the state level, which is very helpful, but I also want to look at the census tract level. So I'm going to turn the census tract off. And here again is my enriched. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn my I don't need this anymore. I don't need the regular census tract boundaries, so I'm going to remove them. Now I have the census tract layered with the eye, so I can visualize it. I'm going to click on this. And instead of going over here, I'm going to go to the styles. I'm going to add the field. Remember, we did the same one, so I can get households below the poverty level. And I'm actually going to mostly choose the same scale. You'll see why. Where did I put it? It's this one, right? Yeah, okay. So press done. Again, I can sure change the outline color if I want. Obviously, that's very thick. But if I put it at like 2, or I'll leave it at 1, so here, I press done and done. And now I have at a finer scale the poverty level, right? In which I can say, oh, and you can notice the change in y-axis, and that's because these are smaller areas. So here there are about 300. And so what's kind of interesting to look at, if I turn this off, I might find that this is this county right here, Somerset County. Looks like it has relatively few households in poverty. But then if I look at the census tract, I can say, oh, they're really concentrated in this area over here, right? Or is that one in there? Yeah, or right at this area. Okay, so scale is really important in thinking about, again, if we go up over here, we see the same phenomenon that this area, I guess sort of like the Jersey City area. No, Jersey City over here. So it's the Newark area, right? I'm right about this. I don't know. Not my New Jersey geography is off. Maybe that's New Brunswick. Anyway, if I guess I can click on here. Hudson County. It doesn't say the exact town name. Sorry, you're just on the ride for that one. So if I turn it off, I say, oh, this area has sort of high poverty, but then there's census tract with actually very few poor folks there. Okay. And again, if I put my EPA site over both of these, you can sort of appreciate both of these maps. So I've made like a pretty informative map, okay? And there's so many other things you can do this with. There's tons of different information and charts and graphs you can make, but let's like take the win. And now we got this first one where we're sort of like building a story about Superfund sites. And what you might notice if we look is that these, you have, with some few exceptions, it does seem that most of the Superfund sites are in areas where, if we look at the legend, there are a higher number of counties where there are a higher number of people or households below the poverty line. If I turn this off, maybe I wonder if we see the same sort of thing. And I'd say probably even to a greater degree is that they all do seem, let's turn this off and on, that many of them do seem to be adjacent or next to some of these less affluent areas where there's a high number of people in poverty. Okay, and there's statistical ways to analyze this that are kind of beyond the scope of what you'll be doing, but know that they exist. And if you ever want to talk about this stuff, I'm here to do so. Okay, so I'm done with symbolizing. I'm going to do a final save. Now it becomes, how do I present this data? Because I could just send a link, but that's too messy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, click over here to home. Here's our Loomis Chaffee GIS page. I'm going to go to content, and I'm going to go to create app, and I'm going to ArcGIS story maps. There's tons of different apps that you can build with ArcGIS. Story maps, I think, is a really interesting way to build a story based on the data you have. So story title, I could write, for instance, relationship between poverty and environmental injustice, exploring the relationship between household poverty levels and Superfund, I'm going to be even right, EPA Superfund sites. Okay, and there's obviously many. I can change to add the covers. I'm not gonna. There's not really a great reason to pick this picture, but if I go to I have these mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains. They're from North Carolina, so they don't make a whole lot of sense, but I just wanted to show how to get a picture on here. And I can also go, like, if you're like someone who likes to design things, which who doesn't, you can also change these up in some cool ways. And so I'm going to change sort of this to a little bit like that. Okay. And I'm gonna let's exit over here. Let me see what this is. There are more themes that are kind of interesting. Let's just X out of here. Okay, so now I have this entry point. And what I can do is add a lot of stuff. I can add code, I can add, you'll see maps, you can add images, videos, maybe you have a video of sort of pollution or some interviews with people who grew up near there. And then some other maps that sort of I will show you through, okay? If I want to just put the map on here, I can do that. All right, and here are all the maps that I've made in my time here. And it'll show up, you just add map, and I want to show, for instance, let's say I want to start by showing at the county level. I have to turn one of these off, and what I should do is go to this little cog and say add a legend that is always open. And I say place my map, and there's my map right there. Maybe I want it a little bit bigger. And now on this page, someone could zoom in, click some information and find it, right? So a really cool way that you've just now added some data to what will be an accessible platform. But I do want to show that having the map on here can be helpful if that's where you want to go, but there's actually some really sick widgets. Sorry for saying that. There's some really interesting ways that you can add these maps. So let's go through one. It's called the swipe map. I want it to be big. I'm going to add the web map here. And this is going to be environmental justice, but I'm going to show, I want to focus on sort of this scale-based property of poverty. So here I'm going to have census tracts. I'm going to start with a state like this. And here I'm going to go in my web map again, but I'm going to use the county level this time. Okay. I'll place my map. And now, oops, I want to edit that because I want to turn off the super font sites. I don't want them to show up on both. Now I have this swipe map, right? And they move with each other. And I don't think that this is like the most interesting phenomenon to put this in here. But hopefully your imagination can have some even better ideas. I can also work through, for instance, like this one's called a sidecar, okay? I'm going to choose floating for now. And in this one, you get different panels and you can sort of write things as the sidecar. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the map and I'm going to write, I'm going to put it at the county level. And I can write over here. And I can write, for instance, several counties, especially in the northeast parts of New Jersey, have a high number of households below the poverty line. And I could write more. I could also add pictures and audio if I wanted, but I'm going to leave it with that right now. I'm going to add another panel, okay, where I add the map. And this time I want at the census tract level. And I want to actually hone in on these census tracts, okay? So if I place the map here, I'm going to have this effect, okay? And then I say, if we look at a more granular scale, you see there are areas of more condensed poverty, okay? Now, how that looks, by the way, if we go up here and we go to preview, We're going to say yes, continue. And by the way, these actually auto save, which is kind of complicated to remember. You need to save your maps, but you auto save, or story maps auto save. Just something to live with. Okay, here's my site. Whoa, I made a website, so awesome. I scroll down here. Here's the map. I can click through and get the data. I scroll here. Here's the swipe map. And I scroll over here. Watch this. For several counties, especially in the northeast parts of New Jersey, have a high number of households below poverty line. I'm scrolling, and it automatically sends me over here with this information at the more granular scale. Kind of cool. I'll exit out over here, and I'll show sort of just the last one. Okay. And by the way, you can add as many as you want of these sort of sidecars, right? You can add like several copying through. All right, let's go ahead and add one more. Let's go to add map and environmental justice. And I want to stay at the census tract level. And let's say I want to go over here and maybe I want to talk about what's this called? No, Federal Aviation's Technical Center. Whatever, put it over here. And so now when you're scrolling through, you're kind of hopping in between. Okay, I could also add the so-called map tour, where I'm actually going to start with Scratch. And I'm going to have it be an explorer based, where I have a list. Okay, and I'm going to add in this one, I can write, oh, I guess it was Elizabeth. Oh, well, maybe it's Newark. I have to see. Yeah. I could add, for instance, Newark. I write something like, this is where, oops. This is where EWR/Newark Airport is located. And I can add the location. Oh, I have to put it, even though I zoomed in on it over there, I have to put it over here. You put it right here. I say use the current zoom level. I add location, and I can write a lot more. I can put pictures. It could be awesome. And I can add another point, and like let's just make this point, like for the sake of argument, in a completely different location. Right, I can go to Philadelphia or Camden, right? And I'll again use the current zoom level. All right, Camden. This is another major city outside of Philadelphia. Again, I can add pictures and make this a lot cooler, but here's where we are. And so if we preview this, we scroll through, we have our swipe map, we have the sidecar, very cool. Scroll down, I can go and I can click through and see the information that I've written about Camden and Newark, okay? Or as many as you have, right? You can make this a really robust tool. So hopefully this is interesting to y'all as a way to relay information and tell stories with data. The story map platform in general, I think, is like a really cool alternative to a paper because you can sort of seamlessly integrate maps, data, pictures, images into your story, audio, for instance. So that's the first thing I want to say is sort of the platform is really cool and hopefully you see pretty easy to use. The next thing is the content. If I go to the map, I could type in so many things and get a lot of interesting information that would be relevant to your class. Okay, I know that if you're doing history of the present, you might be looking at things happening outside of the country. Let's think if we go to, for instance, we go to Australia, for instance. If I go to ArcGIS Online and I type in wildfires, now a bunch of stuff might show up, like this is USA current wildfires. Is that particularly useful? No. Show you a little trick here. You can only show content that exists within your current map area. And so if I add this one, for instance, so this one over here, whoa. So this is all thermal hotspots and fire zones that are happening. Let's see. Oh, here, this is the last 48 hours where there's been some sort of fire activity. Somewhere within what we have could be a wildfire. Okay, so you can click through. All I'm getting at is that there's so much data that's accessible throughout the world, ranging different topics that I'm sure are related to topics that you're interested in discussing and that deal with the issues of the day. And sort of in the same way, you can save this map, get it on a story map, and build it with your narrative and understanding. I hope that you see the value in these tools. I'm excited to work with you as we think about things to map. And thank you for watching.